Hey everybody, welcome to Real Talk 447. My name is Jeff Emig, and of course I am joined by my partner here on Real Talk, Ricky Carmichael, coming to you from Tallahassee, Florida. How's it going back there, Ricky?
It's going well, my man. Just it was a long 3 days.
Did you get any sleep?
In Daytona? I did. I have to anymore. So it was one of the longest races Saturday night, and then an early morning on Sunday, and we lose an hour also. So,
well, you tend to lose sleep in Daytona from my history. There never was a lot of sleep when you go to that place. There's just so much going on, being bike week, Supercross, all that. Yeah. So
the cool thing was, honestly, so we went down to Main Street because we had Sam Jones still with us. He rode down with us. You had to get home for so your little guy. And what was cool, I really thought was a something positive to see, was we went down Main Street, and it's Friday, so this is the first weekend of Bike Week, where the Supercross race used to be the second race or the last weekend of Bike Week. So obviously everyone's there, the crowds were large, but we go down Main Street Friday morning, and it was absolutely packed. So I feel like that's a good sign, and it's Friday. Most people are driving down. You would anticipate it would have been, a little dead on the first, opening. I wouldn't even call Friday night opening day. I would call Saturday night opening day. But good sign. I think that's great for the industry to see that. The vibe was good as always, and of course the weather was insane.
It was nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
I seen you riding that big old street bike. I wasn't sure that thing was fitted for you, man. You were stretched out on that thing.
Big things come in small packages, pal.
Hey, speaking of last week and having Sam Jones as our first guest, we got a chance to spend the week with him, and that was his first Daytona also, right? But what an avid motorcyclist. What a great guy to have as part of our motorcycle community.
Yeah, not a lot of people have heard of him in our community, but the guy is in the know for sure, and a lot of people know him. He is really an enthusiast, like you've talked before. He's an avid rider, an avid fan, and he's been around a long time. I would say it's in his bones.
Yeah.
So it was fun to have him. He says he had a good experience at the RCU, but he was pressuring himself way too much, man. I'm like, you and I were just like, we're just trying to tell Sam, like, let it go, dude. It's okay. Don't worry about the other guys that might be faster than you. It's about you improving. It's not about you against the other guys and judging yourself against the other guys. And he seemed like he had a hard time putting that aside.
Well, the group that he was in with the big bike group, we had about 15 riders, something like that.
12 or 13 big bikes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had, some riders that were probably novice caliber. And then we had a few riders that were A-class kids that are making a run at a pro career. And so he was thrown in there with them. And I think he said he's 50 or maybe plus 50, something like that. And, his day job is not riding dirt bikes and training to ride dirt bikes. It's being behind the camera and in front of the camera and script writing and directing and producing and all kinds of stuff like that. So I thought he did good. Plus, I think being at the goat farm has a little bit of an intimidation factor. I mean, obviously, look what happened to me. I rode for 20 minutes and blew out my shoulder by overjumping something that I should have routinely done perfectly. And plus, the conditions with all that rain that we had was really soft. So soft and rutted is never comfortable if you're not used to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. And he was intimidated, but that's okay. He actually, even before he got here, he actually flew into Atlanta. He watched Atlanta Supercross, drove down with me, and then you came in on Monday. But I could tell, and he even admitted to it, he was nervous like 2 days leading up to it, anticipation of it building. And I was bummed because he enjoyed himself, but I wish he wouldn't have put so much pressure on himself and judged himself against the other riders. But away from the track, we had a good time, and I hope everyone really enjoyed having Sam on Real Talk 447 last week. It was an honor to have him on there. It was cool for him to tell somewhat of an untold story. I know I hadn't heard it all until I met with Sam when I went on off camera, and then for you too, Jeff. I know you've heard little bits of it, but it was cool for our viewers and listeners to listen to that story. It's very compelling and just kind of like it had a wow factor. And I feel that he was a good guy and a great story to have on our first guest.
I agree. Did you were you down there on Main Street with Hart and Big B and those guys with all that nonsense that they get involved in?
Well, I couldn't make it this year because this pub crawl that he did that you guys saw yesterday, he's posting a bunch on social media. I was at the track at the RC SX amateur race, and so I didn't I wasn't able to make it this year. And then we ended up going home after all the racing was done last week. Last year, the reason I was able to go was because it was on Sunday. So I was able to participate. And anytime Kerry has anything with our history, I try to go to support it. So he did find the one gal that he posted a picture of. That's the third time he's seen her. I thought it was just kind of a one and done type deal, but supposedly this older woman is there every single year.
Check out at Heartluck on Instagram, and you want some entertainment. Oh my God, Well, that's a whole other side of Daytona and Bike Week than what we represent out at the Speedway. Before we go, though, I do want to thank Wes Williams and Jack Berg, Dylan Jackson, Jason Crane. They're the team that came to your house there last week and did the production for us. So that was kind of a one-off thing. Obviously, I'm back in the studio in Orange County now. But thank those guys. And if you get a chance, check out the amazing project that they're working on called Red Bull Moto Spy. I mean, we're talking with all the Red Bull Supercross athletes, they're literally in their face, like fly on the wall, mics in their face as some really, like, all the real stuff is happening. So it's pretty cool if you guys check that out. So thanks, Wes and the gang, for helping us out on that. So.
Yeah, that was awesome. Wes is a great guy. I've been working with him a long time, same as yourself, and it definitely turned out good. It was on top of having Sam on for Wes and the gang to come there and check it out was fantastic. To produce it was good.
Yeah, so let's just kick it off here and let's just talk about Daytona Supercross. Tomac wins his 24th career 450 main event, which is staggering. It's amazing. Webb keeps the red plate, has a pretty good ride. Musquin was your fastest qualifier, and I actually thought that without looking at lap times, I would have said that he had the fastest lap in the main, but Tomac ends up with the fastest lap in the main, but Musquin rode a hell of a race riding from behind. So what's your thoughts overall on that and anybody beyond that?
Well, I thought that I picked Eli Tomac to win early on in the week, and man, we got there, and he didn't have the advantage in practice that I thought. And I asked Ralph this. I'm like, dude, do you think he's bluffing a little bit? Not, trying not to set the bar too high, because sometimes when you start getting in, if you show everyone your speed, it gives them an opportunity to fix their bike, catch up. So I'm like, man, I wonder if he's just laying back a little bit. And Ralph had a good point. He's like, he didn't think that he was in a position to be doing that. And so I'm like, that's weird. And he was really going for it, what it seemed like in qualifying practice, especially the last one. Well, come heat race time, him and Ken actually looked really good in practice. I was watching him closely, and I just had a feeling like, man, I think he might do well tonight. Perhaps even, you've talked about it before, Jeff. He really rises to the occasions in situations like that. Like Anaheim 1, he lives for those kind of moments, high pressure moments. So I'm like, dude, this would be an incredible story for Ken Roczen to win the toughest Supercross of the year physically. And he just looked like he was really clicking. So going back, so those two were lined up. They were in the same heat race. And Ken was holding him close. And then we went to another battle with about 2 or 3 laps to go on the broadcast. And then when we showed Eli crossing the finish line for the win in his heat race, he had stretched it out massively like the last 2 laps. Now, I don't know if Ken had a problem, but I'm wondering if he figured something out. And you always listen to Eli Tomac. He says, he finds his flow. He's always searching for that flow. And, well, he started flowing. And then from that point on, he really was in a league of his own, kind of what we expected. But the wheels were wobbling for sure, what I felt, until, halfway through that heat race, in my opinion. But he did what we expected him to do. He rode well. Cooper Webb, he had some moments. For sure, it was a hard-fought second battle. I mean, he had some moments where he was almost on the deck. It wasn't his best race, for sure. Definitely pretty critical on him that race. I've seen him ride a lot better, but Daytona is tough. So he survived. That's what guys like him do. So he held on. But Marvin Musquin, he was riding really aggressive, he wasn't always searching for the smoothest lines. Like if you go back and watch that race, Cooper Webb was searching for the smooth lines and really trying to be efficient, where Marvin Musquin was just bulldogging it. He was going through the roughest corners, the roughest, the roughest line down the straightaways, and just really using the throttle to his advantage. And more of an aggressive style of riding than I've seen in him in a long time. So that was cool.
Because he does
everything he could.
Yeah, he doesn't usually ride like that. He doesn't usually. He's usually the guy finding the smooth lines and the little bits and bobs here and there to find a way around. He usually is very methodical and precise, and he just powered through the pack. So. Yeah. And Musquin was my pick on Tuesday. He qualified first. Of course, I was texting you guys, running my mouth like, hey, here we go. I'm going to be right. And every time that I do that, by the end of the night, your ass is always the one that picks the right one. It's just
I'm sorry.
It's frustrating.
Well,
because I thought I had it this week.
You did have some liquid courage when we filmed last week, so I'll give it to you.
With Sam's special mule mojitos.
And they were good,
so
weren't they?
It's a blend between a mule and a mojito. So thank you, Sam. Those were great.
Moscow Mule, not a mule. Moscow Mule.
Well, yeah, Moscow.
You said mule.
Well, yeah, that's evidently you're not accustomed to the Moscow Mule. We can just shorten it up. So
all right.
You're a cold beer.
No, I used to be, but I'm not anymore. All right.
All right. We've got a question that's relevant to that Webb Musquin thing. The main event here coming later on in our listener questions. Also, round 4 of the 250 East, much of the same up front. And I would say that I had to watch both of these main events on my phone as I was going into one of these super nice luxury theaters with my son called The Lot down there in Fashion Island, going to see Marvels or whatever the Marvel movie was. I was watching the main event on my phone as the movie was starting. So he's like, Dad, are you going to put your phone down? And I'm like, So I'm trying to be engaged in the movie, and I'm trying to watch the main event with no audio. So, but Faulkner looked really impressive. He had a couple of close calls again. He went down in practice. He landed on that tough block in that big rhythm section one time. But by the end of the night, he dominated once again.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, if people are waiting and banking on him to toss it away in the main event, you're going to be waiting a long time. This is just his kid style. This is what he does, and he's going to continue to do it. And don't count on him. Don't count on him. You can count on him making some mistakes, but he's just one of those guys. He's able to pull through, a lot like I was. I want to sit here and talk about how I did this and I did that, but the facts are the facts. And, he is one of those guys, and he always will be one of those guys that just happens to have incredible saves. And it's tough because, you listen to Justin Cooper and Chase Sexton, and they're trying everything they can, and they just are just a little bit off.
Yeah.
And I think the only hope that they have is just, keep a positive mind, keep charging hard, keep working at it, and pressure Austin as much as you can. Each weekend, next week, maybe if you can, hold on at least half the race to him, then the following weekend you go a little bit deeper. That's the only chance that they have.
Do you feel like, though, that Cooper and Sexton are getting any closer, even though Faulkner's won 4 in a row now? Do you feel like that they're closing the gap or gaining their own confidence?
Well, they're gaining confidence in the fact that they know that they're going to be on the podium minimum. But I'm not sure. I think that Justin Cooper is probably gaining a little more confidence than Chase Sexton is, because I don't think anyone anticipated Justin Cooper giving Austin Faulkner a run. But I think everyone was anticipating, Chase Sexton himself included, was wanting to challenge and be more of a challenge to Austin Faulkner than he is. So, it's I mean, the guy's just incredibly fast and he's incredibly talented. And I would love to see a battle. That's for sure. And I feel bad for the guys. You know, listening to Sexton's post race, man, he was just so bummed. He's like, man, I know my first win is coming and just got to keep working. And, you know, and he's right. That's all you got to do. You just got to keep working, plugging along. And one thing I've learned over the years is just do your best. And if your best isn't enough to get the job done, well, then you have no regrets. And you move forward and try to improve. That's all you can do. I mean, it's fun to watch, though. You know, it's fun to watch. I mean, the crazy thing is, Jeff, is they're close, and like Sexton's been really close in time qualifying practice. Yeah. I mean, faster a lot of times. So you know that he can go that fast for one or two laps. It's just he has to be able to do that race situation main event time.
Well, I did watch Race Day live with Daniel and Jim, and if I remember correctly, Sexton looked like he was gonna get that fast qualifier, and then just at the end, Faulkner picked it off. No, you didn't remember that far back? I mean,
I think it was the other way around, wasn't it, or no?
Anyway, so and that championship is spread by 23 points in just 4 races, whereas our 450 Supercross. The points, so that's a 3-way battle there, 23 points. And then Supercross is still a 4-way battle with 21 points. But Daytona kind of blew this thing apart also because Webb's got 19 points over second with Tomac and Musquin both at a minus 19, which is quite a bit right now. I mean, Webb's earned every bit of that. But we're going to get to Webb here a little bit later on. You got anything else you want to say about Daytona?
Well, I don't. Well, we didn't get to talk about my microphone. Everyone like my new microphone situation?
He actually got his new mic set up, but then it was picking up too much ambient noise. So then our technical people here in Orange County said, you got to go back to the original. So we're trying. That's only 4 episodes now that we haven't been able to make it happen.
I've offered to do it in my theater room or in a room with carpet or, not hard tile and wood floors so where it doesn't echo. But these guys, even you, Jeff, you like the background here.
Well, I'll go with the theater room.
I got the mannequin right here behind me. That gear that mannequin is wearing, by the way, is this not the little one. Don't even go there. Don't be an asshole. Okay, this guy
the one here, on the right.
That's the gear that I wore at my last Supercross race in 2007 at Orlando. So. He's on the mannequin. And then this little guy up here, Japanese fan gave that to me. That's back when I had the frosted tips. So
yeah, no, that's so lifelike. I remember that time.
Yeah.
You're going to bring those back
You're
sometime?
going to try to clown me is what you're going to.
You just go ahead and get it out of the way so I don't have the opportunity to.
So my microphone. So guys, guess what? I went and got this badass microphone. It was going to be fantastic. And then it ended up being too good. Can you believe that?
Too good. It was picking up too much sound. So we'll get it together. We'll figure it out one of these days. So what are you looking forward to with Indy coming up?
Well, I like going to Indy. It's a special weekend. Actually, I'm bringing my kids with me, and it's their birthday. It's going to be their birthday. It's Chad Reed's birthday weekend as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I enjoyed going to Indy. That's where I raced my first ever Supercross in 1997. I think I placed, 19th, somewhere around there.
You really crushed it. You had to have crashed. With a 19th, you crashed.
I did. I fell down, tangled with another rider, Brock Sellers it was, and I fell down, broke my clutch perch off, so I had no clutch. And if anybody has listened to me ride a motorcycle, I'm really clutch happy. So I was definitely out of my element, not only with no clutch, but on Supercross.
Is it gonna rain? Is it gonna snow at all? The weather's supposed to be good.
Dude, I haven't looked at the weather.
Last year it snowed like 8 inches on Saturday during.
Oh, dude!
And we still had like 55,000 people. It was insane. And then when we went to Minneapolis and it was the blizzard, we had like 45,000 fans. It's incredible. The fans are just yeah.
Wasn't it Kyle Peters who slipped down on his way to the stadium because of all the snow and blew his ACL out? Do you remember that?
I think that was Weston Pike in Minneapolis. No, I know Pike went down. But somebody did hurt their knee outside riding into the stadium. But I think that was Minneapolis. But Yeah, it was a very.
You're thinking
it
again.
doesn't matter.
You're thinking.
No. Our listeners will know.
They'll get it straightened out, won't they?
Mm-hmm. They will. Well, it should be interesting.
Yes.
Staying with the East Coast still, and being in one of those square stadiums, as you call them, football stadium, and that's the track goes right to the walls. The dirt's usually pretty damn soft there. It gets pretty rutted, so should be an interesting race.
Yes, it will be.
Okay, dude, we're going to move on to listener questions. You ready?
Well, we had a little bit of a Supercross research department to the rescue here.
Yep. So this is on Instagram. RDI Montova. He says, fellas, Stat Geek Fro might like this one. Episode 4, you guys were talking about overall win percentage. So who has the highest title win percentage out of the premier seasons raced? Great podcast. Keep on rolling. Thanks for your question. So, yeah, Supercross Research Department steps in, and, of course, it's overcomplicated for both of us. So he says, okay, it depends on how you count it. So try to follow along here. It depends on how you count it.
Wait. Do I need to remember last week you had
No, I copy and pasted this. So if
I know you're colorblind and all. So this is copy and pasted. You didn't switch numbers around. Okay.
No, I didn't lower your numbers. No, this is actually the way it is. So, total seasons, which means every year where a guy competed in at least one race in the championship, or full seasons, which the research department defines as competing in at least 50% of the scheduled races in a given season. So there are two answers to this question. I thought it was going to be easy. I thought we just who's got the highest number of championships versus seasons that they raced. So it's going to make for a longer podcast here because the research department is just too good. So if you go by full seasons, which is defined by competing in at least 50% of the scheduled races. If you go by full seasons, the winner is Ricky Carmichael, as he raced 7 full seasons and won 5 championships. That's 71.43% championship percentage. So of the seasons you race, 71% of the time, you won the championship.
So this is Supercross only, clearly.
Yeah, we're just talking 450 Supercross, premier class Supercross.
Okay.
But if you go by total seasons, which is defined by every year where a guy competed in at least one race in the championship, the winner is Villapoto. So he won 4 of 6, and that is 66.7%. And so I'm going to throw the graphic up in the edit, but so if we go to full seasons, you're on top with 71.43. McGrath is right at 70%, 7 of 13. You won 5 of 8. And Villapoto is 4 of 6, which is 66%. And then the other way to look at it, the total seasons, it's Villapoto winning 4 of 6, 66 point, and you drop down to 62.5 with 5 of 8. 5 of 8 or with 7 full seasons. I don't know. It gets a little bit confusing, but I know the real number. Do you want to read it?
Let me do the real number, please. Can I do the honors for the real number? All right, guys. So here's my man. All right, Jeff Emig. He raced 10 total seasons. He got 1 title. That's 10%, equaling 10%, and 8 full seasons, which that put you at 12.5%.
I like that. I like if we go with the full seasons, because then it's 12.5 instead of 10%.
Yeah.
Either way, it's still in a pretty close zone. So.
And the way I'm looking at it, dude, is you beat the king of Supercross when you won the title. They don't ask you how many you won races. It's all about titles, right?
Yeah, it was 1997 was a tough season. There were a lot of guys that were fast. Albie, Henry, Lusk. Who else won a race that year? There were.
Was it Wyndham?
Huffman.
I think didn't Wyndham win?
Sure, yeah.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Did he win Charlotte? No. Who won Charlotte? Did he win Charlotte in the mud?
It wasn't. it wasn't really muddy, I don't think. I mean, it wasn't a full mudder. But yeah, I think Wyndham won a couple or a race. Yeah.
And you know what was cool about 97 is, and I really think riders should do this these days, is a lot of guys would race, Wyndham was racing 125 West Coast, and then he'd ride 250 East Coast. So he's getting education and time and experience in the class that he would be eventually moving on to in 1998. So
it's almost like you had to audition for that. Like there hadn't been enough, time or experience, much of a track record for, okay, can these 125 guys, will they make the jump to the 250, which is now 250 to 450? And so we would all race on the opposite coast. We'd go jump on a big bike and race that way. And nowadays, because last week Shane McElrath was one of the riders who rode the opposite coast. Granted, he didn't ride a 450. He rode his 250, which was kind of unorthodox. But you get a chance to mix it up with the top level of the sport. And I wonder if, even for McElrath, if that was a bit of an audition, or, gaining some experience racing Daytona, because soon he'll be in the 450 class. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm all about guys racing, especially as they get older. So you take a guy like Adam Cianciarulo. He's a veteran in the 250 class, in my opinion. So I think it would be to his benefit, and even whatever team he ends up riding for, their benefit as well, if he got a little bit of experience in that 450 class for the following year, whenever it is he wants to jump up. Is there a risk? Yes, I understand the risk. We take risks all the time when we get on our motorcycles. But I still feel that he has enough experience. He's developed enough physically, emotionally. His race IQ is high enough that he's ready for that jump. And if he goes into the 450 ranks, and if he was in that position like Shane McElrath was, and he knows, hey, I'm not taking the bait if I'm doing well, if I'm just out there learning and getting that experience to see the differences, I'm all for it. So I'm not.
But you don't think that the teams have, like right now, that the structure, the way it is that the teams know that, hey, these are the riders that they've groomed and that they're going to be able to make that jump? Like, is there any question that Cianciarulo or Webb and Savacci, guys like that are now in the 450, was there any question that they wouldn't make the jump? Because I think back in the 90s, it was until you did it, it was kind of unanswered. But I think there's been long enough time that the smart people that run the teams and stuff, they know, or they've hedged their bets pretty good, that they know that this person is groomed good enough.
Well, it's all based on data, and right now it's proving that guys that don't do, half the season on 250 and half and then half the opposite coast on the 450s, the data is showing that they don't need that, because guys are just not forced into 450. They make the jump and then they learn. I do think it takes a little bit longer. That's my opinion. I'll have to do a little more data on that.
Well, there was a time period where a bunch of guys came through, guys that, and we talked about it in one of the earlier episodes, where guys came through that were 250 champions even, and never won a 450 main, right? But now it seems like that stat is starting to be crushed a little bit, because these guys are coming through and doing what they're supposed to do. And what's changed, because that's kind of, I'd say in the last 8 years or 10 years, that's changed. And if you looked at the previous 10 years, it was guys like you came through and won almost every race, and there wasn't a lot of low-hanging fruit for anybody else,
What I think these guys are doing, Jeff, now, the team managers, like you said, the smart guys that are running the teams, is they're willing to not take the gamble of their guys that are 250 guys and running opposite coasts on the 450, and giving them basically a longer grace period in the 450 class when they move up to learn a little bit. Where back in the day, I think was when you moved up, you were expected to win. Guys like yourself, myself, You know, I mean, that's just the way it was. So
right
I think that's the difference. They would rather not take the gamble and then have a little more patience as the guys move up. That's what I think. No, you don't agree with that?
No, I always felt that there was a lot of pressure straight away, even to win 125 class straight away.
Yeah.
And which is now the 250. And we know now that the statistics now that go back to the 80s, back to 1985, is that your third year in the 250 class is going to be your best year for almost every rider. Was the third year your best year?
You know, I never raced the third year, so I'll never know.
Either. I didn't either. But right now we're seeing Austin Faulkner. This is his third season, right?
Right.
And he's absolutely crushing it. Huh.
What do you think? What do you think about the current point situation and how that works out? Is that for another podcast?
That's a whole nother episode. We're working on some stuff for that though, on the to really help dive into the advancement points of the 250 class, how these riders point out. We're going to talk about the history of the point system, which, in my opinion, I got completely hosed. You got pointed out also? Did you point out or did you move up?
No, I didn't point out. I just moved up.
Yeah, we know that in 1999 you probably should have been on a little bike, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. It's not one of my regrets, but if there's anything I could have done in my career, I would have raced West Coast or defended my title on the East and then raced West Coast 250s with you and spanked you a little bit.
Dude, I was already on the big bike by then. You wouldn't have had a chance.
That's what I'm saying. I would have loved to have spanked you in 99. And, you know, that's what I should have done.
Well, you're saying that you should – wait, your first year on big bikes was 99.
Yes.
So you're saying if you had stayed a year longer on a 125, that would have been 99.
Yes, raced 99.
On a 125.
I would have raced a 250 on the West Coast and defended my title in the East Coast.
And rode a 250.
Spanked you early on in the season.
Dude, no chance. We've already been through it. That 99 was not the year to be riding that bike in Supercross. You're being way too optimistic right now. Yeah. Well, there's a good chance that you would have had a championship in 99 and some trophies from Supercross because you didn't get any.
Yeah,
I don't see any 1999 trophies in the background there.
No trophy from Supercross. Nothing.
All right, so, wow, this is an interesting question. Comes from Myers395 on Twitter, and he says, "Why don't you guys talk about how team orders are already in effect with Marvin Musquin refusing to pass Webb after catching him so easily? This shit totally pisses me off. If you're not good enough to win the championship without on-track help, then you don't deserve it." You don't. So he's saying that Marvin Musquin refused to pass Webb in that main event. We have not talked about this until now. I have a feeling that we're on the same page. I hope that we are. Go for it.
Well, first of all, Marvin isn't – historically, if you look at Marvin, he's not a rider that's going to come in and just clean you out, okay? Because remember, if you're cleaning some dude out in a corner, you're taking a risk of perhaps taking yourself out also and, you know, maybe doing worse damage to a finish that you could have possibly had than the guy you're trying to take out. So there's a risk there. It doesn't always work out, and we've seen that happen. So to answer your question, I'm assuming this fella is talking about I'm sure he's talking about Atlanta.
No,
or if he's not talking about
Daytona.
Atlanta, maybe he's talking about Daytona?
Daytona, yeah.
Okay, well,
so
he
where
was riding right behind Webb, too, at Atlanta, and he tried one time. Dude, he tried one time to get by and get a little aggressive through the whoops at Atlanta, and he made him, and he ran into Webb and almost took himself out.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that they are teammates. So if there's, I don't believe that there's any team orders, because Musquin wants to win this championship just like Webb does. But you're not going to – Musquin's not typically a very rough rider. I know that he's had some incidents like with Tomac and things like that, which was really close to the end of the season, where you and I all of a sudden give a little more leeway. I think that Webb just stepped it up. I think that Musquin caught him. I think that he probably expended a lot of energy, and that some of the lines that he had started to go away. And Webb was fit and ready for that challenge at the end of the main event. I don't think that Musquin – I don't think that he refused to pass him. I think he just couldn't.
There was to answer this question, there at this point in the game, there isn't any there are no team orders. I mean, there is a gentleman's rule within the team, and Jeff, I would think that you would agree with me when I say this, that, hey, don't go out there and completely clean your teammate out. That's not good for anyone. Most importantly, not good for yourself. So, no, team orders aren't happening right now. Now, you get down to Vegas, and the situation is, let's role play this. For Webb to win the championship, he's got to get fifth if Tomac wins. And Marvin is in fifth and Webb is in fifth. You can bet your sweet ass there's going to be some team orders, because there's so much at stake. I mean, there's always stuff at stake, but then that's a team order situation when they only have one person to be able to win the championship. That's when a company would probably come in and say, hey, this is a scenario. If you're in this spot, you need to probably give way. There's so much on the line at that, and you can control it. But at this point in the game, no way. There is no way.
Trying to make up.
I guarantee you, there wasn't a conversation that happened before that race.
No. And Musquin would have been. Let's see. He would have lost 2 points this weekend, so he would have been minus 17 to Webb going into Daytona, and he's looking to close that gap back up. The last thing I think Musquin was doing there was catching up to the back of Webb and then just not passing him. Yeah. I mean, I thought Marvin. I kept looking at the lap times, and at one point, Marvin's gap to Tomac closed down to about 8 seconds, or maybe even 7.5. And I thought, shit, Marvin may, if he gets past Webb pretty quick, he may make a run at the win. But Webb, as he's done this year, has been so tough and so strong, so mentally tough at the end of the races. This one might have been a second. It wasn't one of those wins that he had, but for him to fend off the charge of Musquin and to stay in second was a championship ride. It was really, really impressive. And I don't believe that there were any team orders either.
Not at this stage in the game. There's no way.
Yeah. Do you this happened before you were born in 1979? I know now, right?
2 years before I was born. That's right.
So probably the most famous team orders in the history of the sport happened. But did you have any team orders ever? Were you ever involved in anything like that?
I didn't have orders, but I knew what the situations were.
Which was, we'll get to the next story after this.
2001 outdoor championship. Mike Brown and Grant Langston were going for the title. I went from the 250, or at nowadays, nowadays it'd be 450, 250, but back then it was 250, 125. I jumped down to the 125, and I went there to better my 125.
You wanted to beat Mark Barnett's win record, overall record.
That's right. It almost didn't work out.
From the Bomber. I thought you and Bomber were friends. You had to go and.
We are, man. We are. But normally I don't chase records, but that one I was chasing. So I went there, but I wasn't going to. I didn't have orders to go out there and do anything to Grant Langston, but if I was running in a certain position, then I needed to be mindful of that and be aware of what was happening. Luckily for me, that scenario never played itself out. Grant Langston's wheel exploded doing one of the jumps at Steel City, so I was aware of it. I was aware of the situation.
Well, maybe when Ping and Langston have you on the Whiskey Throttle show, that can be a topic. You can talk about how you were there to get in the way of Langston and separate him and Brownie.
Yeah, but the thing is, too, I mean, I went there solely to win another race to get the all-time wins of 125 Outdoor Nationals.
Yeah. Do you still have that record?
I don't. Bubber beat me.
By one, right?
I think so. Oh, well.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to review that greatest of all time now tag and just really put some analysis to figure out if that's still valid. Dude won a pro motocross championship every year that he raced the full season. You rode a half season in 2007. You were leading the points when you were like, I'm retiring. So it's conceivable to think that out of 11 seasons, he would have won 11 championships, which is absolutely amazing. So
thanks, buddy.
Just mind blowing. All right. So do you know the story? Did you read the link that I sent you? Probably not.
Of course not.
So you can, if you go on your web search and just let Brock buy story. I know that Jody Weisel in Motocross Action tells a story. I actually went to the Racer X version of this just to get some to get a little bit of the stats. I know all about the story. I was alive then. But this amazing story that happened in the 1977 AMA 125 National Championship season finale at Cyclorama in San Antonio, Texas, which is the same championship that we were just talking about, but 25 years, whatever, ahead of that. So photographer Jim Ganastis snapped a shot of Team Yamaha mechanic Keith McCarty, who's still at Yamaha these days, giving the pitboard message to Bob Hanna, who was his rider at the time, who dropped down to ride the 125 in that final race, just like you did, to, quote, let Brock by. Okay, so Hanna was winning the race. Brock Glover and Danny Laporte were going at it in the championship, separated by just a point. So Hanna ended up letting Glover go by for the moto win in the final moto of the season, giving him the points that he needed to overtake Suzuki's Danny Laporte in that final moto, final race of the season. And as I read the story, I knew the story, but I hadn't really read the details, is that Jim didn't realize until a few days later when they were developing the photos that he even had that photo. He just thought that he snapped a photo of Bob Hanna. And then it ends up being this pit board, let Brock by, that Keith McCarty is saying they're holding. If you go on Google, it's just, to me, it's just such a classic, photo in our industry, just one of the greatest photos ever. And then to have this story attached to it and all of the intricacies and everything to that. That was pretty interesting team orders right there.
I got to give it up to, so back to Myers 395 and our fans question, talking about, team orders at KTM. And I think I need to commend the teams for being able to be in that position, recruiting, hiring good enough talent that can run up front and be able to put you in that position to have somebody be able to affect the point situation. Like, I mean, isn't that what you do in other stick and ball? I know this isn't stick and ball. So you look at that, you try to get other players to strengthen your team's position to win. But I look back on things like that. I'm like, these guys are in the good, use anything you can. Davey Coombs told me one time, and I'll never forget this. He told me one time, use anything you can to your advantage.
He told you that about racing?
It wasn't about racing.
Well, he told me that when it had to do with picking up chicks.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think you could segue that to anything.
We got to have Davey on. Oh, my. We just go, welcome to Real Talk. I'm Jeff. This is Ricky. And our first guest is Davey Coombs. And then the next time he would just tell stories the whole time. Be like, all right, well, thanks for listening to this episode.
This
thanks,
is this
Davey,
old lie.
Yeah. Dude, he's
Drew McKeague, man. Thanks a lot, Davey, for coming on.
Well, he's got so many, like, he's just, his ability to remember all these just, he knows every story in the sport for 40 years. Yeah. But I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
It was just a couple years ago with Monster Energy Supercross when Dungey and Tomac were really close in points, and we were at MetLife Stadium in the New York area, across the river in the shadows of the Big Apple, as Ralph says. It's actually in New Jersey.
In the shadows of the Big Apple.
Monster Energy Supercross comes to the Garden State, actually.
The revs are up. The gate's about to drop.
Yeah. And Ricky Carmichael lights the candles. I love that. I love that line.
Oh, it's good.
Okay,
it's good.
So a couple of years back when Tomac and Dungey were having it out for the championship, there were 2 races to go. Didn't Muscan pull out of the way when he was leading the race and let Dungey win? Is my memory failing me?
Those were team orders, 100%. But then again, KTM was in a tough, tight points battle. Muscan realistically wasn't going to win the Supercross championship, so their only dog in the fight at that point was Ryan Dungey.
And that might have been the night where Tomac fell a couple times there and just had a bit of an off night, and everything was so close. So I mean, if it was RCH and Muscan and Dungey were in that same situation, would you have had this?
Brock Tickle would have been pulling over to let Ken Roxon by.
Okay.
I mean, we have sponsors that we have to answer to. And Jimmy John's was our sponsor at the time. You don't think he wouldn't have been breathing down our neck, asking us why didn't we have a plan in place for a situation like this, for the amount of sponsorship that all of our sponsors were contributing at. We have people that we have to answer to, and you bet your sweet ass there would have been team orders. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's.
Is something wrong with that?
Well, it's only wrong if you're the guy on the other side, and I have a feeling that Myers 395. I have a feeling that he's a Tomac fan. Didn't you get a little sense there that at the end there, if you're not good enough to win the championship without the on-track help, then you don't deserve it? That maybe there was something motivated there by Tomac being his guy.
Yeah, but don't put yourself in that position to where you have to depend on.
That's where I was going.
Was that where you were going?
Well, that's where the wheels were turning on that same thing, and it's the same thing with when we talked about the officiating in the the NFL and stuff like this. Is you have to play above that stuff to ensure it, right? And so on that particular night, if Tomac had just went out and won the race, whether Muscan let Dungey by would have been irrelevant. So.
Yeah, 100%. Don't you as a champion, you have to put yourself in good positions. And you know what? Dungey his back was against the wall too. He should have been in a better position. I mean, you can make that argument for both guys. So yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah. All right, so we got one more question here. I believe that this question was actually directed towards Ralph Shaheen, but since you're his partner on the NBC broadcast, I have to ask a question, and please be honest, Ricky. Don't lie this time. You have to be honest this time.
Okay.
Why does Ralph or Ricky or myself kiss Roxon's ass so much?
Well, wait, it doesn't say my name on here.
No, but I have a feeling that we could lump us all in there. And to be fair, because Ralph's not on the show to defend this question, so I think that we need to step in here.
Go for it.
And I would say that you are very pro Ken. I think that you talk very highly of him. I think that it fits the bill. Don't get me wrong, Ken is very, very good, but there are some other riders that are just as good and have won both this year and last year.
Well,
so why do you kiss his ass so much, Ricky?
If I'm giving the guy credit where credit's due, and listen, I am one of Ken's hardest critics.
I would say so, yeah.
And because I know what he's capable of. Jeff, you know what he's capable of. You're hard on. You're some of the guys' hardest critics there. Because the reason we are because we know what they're capable of. However, we have a lot of respect for these guys. So if we know what they're going through, and we know the conditions that they're have been fighting against, so we tell it how it is, and we compliment them for that. And if it comes across as we're kissing their ass, then I guess it comes across as we're kissing their ass. But it's not like that. Ralph is extremely complimentary of every rider. He has a lot of respect for these guys. He loves a lot of these guys that he gets to announce for. And if it comes across that way, it's definitely trust me, he's not doing it on purpose. He's just giving the guy credit. Think about where Ken Roczen has come from in the last 2 years, especially in 2017 from that injury at Anaheim. I mean, the guy shouldn't even be riding a dirt bike from some of the stories that we've heard. Makes a miraculous comeback and is doing well in 2018. Loses his mind a little bit. Definitely an out-of-character move from Ken Roczen at San Diego, and injures himself again. And that injury the second year wasn't something to sneeze at. I mean, it was a very, very horrible injury. So now you got one arm that he has lost strength in, and now another arm, so so if he's having a hell of a ride, of course we're going to give him props. He's come from a lot.
Well, and let's be fair. If I look at the results here, started out the season with a second, a third, a fourth. The Triple Crown, he went 2.54, and then a fifth in Oakland. Gets back on the podium, 3.22. Things are going really good. He's got the points lead, knocking on the door of some wins. I mean, obviously he had some really close seconds right there. And then a fourth overall in Detroit at the Triple Crown. But since then, his main events, counting the Triple Crowns, are 5, 6, 5, 4, 8. So this last couple of weeks, last month, things haven't really gone as planned. And that's, if you don't know, I know we've talked about it a little bit before about the injury that his training partner, brother-in-law Blake Savage, has had. I think that you add in all those things that you talked about, and now the challenges that he's faced this year with, I mean, he lost his training partner, right?
And for a great friend.
Yeah,
you can't train with them, obviously.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, I'm saying, so all these things have been disrupted, and we're talking about the best guys in the world, so every little bit. I mean, before this last month, I would say that what he was accomplishing deserved all of the credit. I don't know exactly why the results have started to decline right now. Certainly, Webb, Tomac, and Musquin have raised their game, and it'll be interesting to see if Ken can turn it around here for the last part of the series, last part of this championship.
Yeah, it'll be it's going to be good. Even though we have a 19-point spread between first and second, this championship's far from over. I mean, think of the ground that Eli Tomac made up in 2017. He made up a lot of ground, and he can do it again. Yes, Cooper Webb has done a fantastic job of positioning himself perfectly. A lot of Dungy-esque type riding, but things can happen, man. Things can happen. And this championship is far from over. Please don't anyone think that it is. It's just not a mail-in type situation. And these guys are going to fight back. I'm telling you.
Yep. Yeah, that's for sure. So I'm going to add one more question here before we start to wrap it up. So we had three riders that were the standouts that had moved up to the 450 class, which Savatgy, Plessinger, and Justin Hill. Of those three riders, who do you think is the most disappointed themselves? Not us, not our opinion, but who do you think's the most disappointed? Who would Would
I think I believe that Hill.
Hill.
Hill. Especially after a fantastic ride we saw him put on at Tampa last year before he went down in that corner just before the finish line there. Him and Marvin Musquin got together. Just kind of a racing incident. He didn't time his turn down while Marvin Musquin was passing him. But honestly, I expected a lot more in race situation from Justin Hill.
Well, he's had one. No, he's had
get it sorted out.
Yeah, he's had 2 top 10s. One was a 9th in a 3rd race of the Triple Crown, and then he got a 7th at Daytona. Other than that, every other finish has been an 11th or higher.
Yeah.
To me, it's Plessinger.
Hey, Plessinger, hold up. Until this weekend, Plessinger was, I think he was rebounding. He had an incredible ride at Atlanta. Despite his fall, he got his best finish.
5th, yep.
He was our defending champion in the 250 West class from last year. But,
if you draw a line graph of his results,
sorted out.
Yeah, but if you draw a line graph of Plessinger's results, it looked like a whoop section.
Yeah.
What about Savacci?
I mean, Savacci's doing well. He's turned it around. Had a few bumps and bruises there at the beginning of the season, especially Glendale, and he's been able to turn around. He's consistent, doing what we thought that he would do, and his starts have been a little off par the last 2 or 3 weeks, so that's been a challenge. So if you're Joey Savacci, you're trying to figure out to get back to those starts and how they were at the beginning of the year when you're that definitely helps when you get good starts. But
well, he's typically great at starts, and when he ran up front and led that race for which one was it? Detroit, Texas, maybe. I forgot.
Well, I don't think it was. No, it wasn't Texas.
Yeah, Arlington, he got a 5th. No, Arlington, he got a 5th. Yeah, Minneapolis, he was 4th. Okay, yeah, probably Minneapolis. That was a good ride, and that if you can do that consistently, then you start to believe that that's where you belong. And I think the deal with Plessinger and Hill, you start in the back, and all of a sudden you think that that's where you belong, and then you kind of settle in. Do you believe in that theory?
100%. I call it getting in a rut. You get in a rut, and once you get in that rut of running 7th to 10th, and you run that same rut for 4, 5, 6 weeks, it's really, really hard to get out of it. I was that guy in 1999. I mean, it was. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because, you can go to practice, you bring the heat at practice during the week and everything feels good. Your lap times are good. And then you just get to the race and you just don't believe in yourself. So I think that's where those guys are. And when you run up front, you learn those guys' pace, you learn what they're doing. And it definitely, like you said, Jeff, is a confidence booster. So
I agree. Well, we're about to wrap this up. You got anything else you want to?
Well, no, I just, hey, are you a Lakers fan? LeBron James?
No. I like LeBron James. I'm not. NBA's been off my radar, but it has been on the news that there ain't going to be no postseason. Is that where you're going with this?
Well, I want your take. Who's better, LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Well, that's where you get into who's the best. Like, I think the numbers have to. Okay, look, I have 1 championship. McGrath has 7. You have 5. Villapoto, Dungy have 4. Right? Stanton and Hanna, some of these guys have 3. I, in my heart of hearts, think I could run with the best guy ever on my day. But I didn't race against Bob Hanna, and I didn't race against Ryan Dungy. Right? And we barely even raced together. So I don't expect any athlete of that caliber to give it to the other guy. And I think that the only way that you can measure, like, who's the best? What does that mean? What does the best mean? Well, man, I think I was the best on my day. Just like you would say the same. And you would have every it would be completely fine for you to think that way. Like, think about your best race. Oh, man, nobody would have beat me that day. So then it comes down to, okay, that's like opinion, like who's the best? Well, so it comes down to stats. And I don't know the stats of LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I don't know the intricate details of it.
You know that Michael Jordan never missed a playoff appearance. You know that, right?
Okay.
He's 6 for 6 in the finals.
But it's also a team. It's a team, so it's not just.
Hey, man, I'm just asking.
You're telling me that LeBron's early years in Cleveland, right, when they just didn't have enough people around him. Yes, he is a force. He is one bad mofo. Don't get me wrong, right? And he certainly has proved it by going to other organizations and winning championships. But it's a team thing, too. It's like you can't rule that out.
Yeah, one man can't do it all.
No, you can't. I mean, and if there's any team sport where one man has the most influence on the game, it certainly is basketball, because you've got 4 other teammates, not like in football, world football or, NFL, things like that. Baseball is, that's a totally different thing, but you rely on your pitcher, you rely on offense, all this. So if there is one thing, but why are you bringing this up? Are you just trying to, you wonder if 50 Beaks is listening in and how if he's...
He better be listening in.
Yeah,
hey,
50
so
Beaks.
I got a good... Hey, can I tell a story real quick? Do we have time?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay, so we go out to dinner Friday night, myself, Ralph, Curly, Sam Jones, and another friend of mine. And...
oh, you don't want to mention him?
No, well, no one would know. He's just a friend of mine.
Well, don't you think he'd like a call out, just a shout out?
He doesn't. This kind of guy, no. This is an older dude. He just
It's not Jimmy, right?
No.
Because Jimmy's all up in the Instagram.
So let me land my plane because you got me crunched on time. So I asked Ralph. He said, "Yeah, dude. Hey, just got done watching listening to episode 4." I'm like, "Sweet, man." I'm like, dude, what'd you think of that? Like, Stu, man, that was awesome, huh? And he just looks at me.
Okay.
He doesn't say anything. I'm like, wasn't that a gnarly story? And he doesn't say anything. And Sam says, oh, look, he just
listen to the whole show.
He didn't watch the whole show.
It was an hour 45.
He said, well, I only watched half of it. I said, wait a minute. You just said that you listened to it. I'm assuming listen to the whole thing.
Well, that's what sucks, because I look at the analytics for our listeners on all the podcast sites, and then also the viewers on YouTube, is it starts out and then it like drops. And it's like the number of people that start the show and finish the show are different. I think that's just naturally how it goes. But that's why we're saving this amazing, gripping story right now that you have for the end, so that people listen all the way to the end.
Yeah, it was so dude, totally busted him. He said, oh well, I was gonna listen to the second half on my way to the airport, and just totally busted him. And he's the one who offered it. I didn't even ask him, like, hey dude, did you listen to episode 4? He came in, opened right up with it, and I quizzed him on it, and he didn't even know anything about it. I'm like, dude, come on. Actually, Sam blew him out. It was freaking fantastic. But
Sam tell him to look younger?
Yeah. Look younger. So anyhow, great story. Everybody check it out. It's going to be hope you enjoyed the podcast. Check it out on all your favorite podcast sites. Jeff can go over that. We'll be talking to you next week as well. Tell them what we got coming next week, Jeff.
Well,
and check it out.
Well, while you're in Indianapolis working, I'm going to be out at Fox Raceway in Pala, California. We've got doing a big promotion for the Emig Pro Grip. So we're having a ride day. So anybody that's in Southern California, Arizona, Nevada, you guys want to come out on Saturday. So this coming Saturday, it's the same day as the Indy Supercross. Is that the 16th?
Yeah,
probably 16th. The 16th. So at Fox Raceway, details on ODIgrips.com or on Fox Raceway's Instagram, on the ODI Instagram, on my Instagram. So the first 47 people through the gate get a free set of grips. The first 247 people through the gate get $10 off their gate fee. We're going to be doing grip demos, so we'll have a team of mechanics there from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. You can come out if you're out there riding, practicing. There's even a race going on. If you want to come by, our mechanics will throw some Emig Pro grips on your bike. You can go ride with them. Let us know what you think. I don't know if you got to take them off or what. I don't know what the team has figured out on that. And then we're also we're going to have a big, massive blow-up screen, and we're going to be showing Race Day Live under the Fox Racing pole barn there. That's in the where we have the parties and all that. So at the pole barn, we're gonna have that set up with all the festivities, and we're gonna have a Supercross viewing party also. So if we're set up in time, we're gonna have Race Day Live going during the day with Jim and Daniel, you and Ralph and the team for the qualifiers, and then we start at 4 p.m. our time, so 7 or 7 p.m. East Coast time. We're gonna have a Supercross viewing party for the Monster Energy Supercross from Indianapolis. Rhino Power is going to be out during the day. 805 Beers is going to be there later on for the viewing party. Fox Racing is going to be doing Instinct boot demos all day long from the Fox Racing store there on site. ODI and all of our crew's going to be there, so it should be pretty fun. If you want to come out and ride with us at Fox Raceway on Saturday, check it out.
Yep.
So you got to bring it, because we're going to be critiquing your broadcast skills on Saturday.
You can't be any worse than some of the keyboard warriors that come through my Twitter feed every week.
Well, our crew's going to be out there with free beers and all that, and Rhino Power. They're going to be all jacked up on the Rhino Power. Then we're going to hit them with some beer, and all the kids are going to be running around riding their mini bikes, and families and everybody. And the Fox Racing has a race going on both days, Fox Raceway, so it's going to be absolutely mentally packed. It's going to be great.
Are you preparated and ready for the weekend, or what?
I'm going to preparate. There's a lot more that needs to be done before we actually get to Saturday, but we will be there, and so I'm going to be with probably a few hundred people watching you guys on site from Fox Raceway. So you got to bring it, dude.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody. You can send your questions to at Talk447 on Twitter. We really appreciate all of the comments.
At Real Talk.
No, we couldn't get Real Talk. Remember, some dude has it. Some dude has Real Talk. He got it in 2015 and didn't even have one post. I don't know. Talk447 on Twitter, at Ricky Carmichael, at Emig47. Thanks, Orange County Production Studios here for everything they do. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. The show's been great. This is episode 5. We absolutely love what we're doing. We've got lots of new stuff that we're going to introduce in the future, and really have enjoyed this episode, too. So as we go away, Andrew McKeek Band, This Oh Lie. Thanks for listening, everybody. I've been here now in outer space. Such a long, long time. Getting by on good luck. Living in the now. How long will it really last? Who cares anyhow? 15 minutes later, in a room without a view, waiting on your savior, but he ain't coming through. You go back for trouble. You ready, Arne? Living this soul life. That's it. Thanks, everybody.